Hey guys, welcome to Greg Taylor, part 2. Little disclaimer before we get rolling. We did experience some equipment failure, essentially, during the podcast. So about towards the end of part 1, I saw on the audio levels that the gain was a mess. And turns out, troubleshooted it all, and it ended up being kind of a XLR cord that was going bad. So I had to send this off parts 2 and part 3 to some sound engineers to clean up. So this is not going to be the quality of audio that my listeners are used to and that the standard that I hold our podcast to, but it's still great. And, apologies to Greg Taylor, but did the best we could to patch this one together, but it's still an incredible story. It's very listenable, but just a little disclaimer, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said before in the first one, this was just an incredible story, and Greg is so open about what he went through. I think there's a lot of lessons in this, and I hope Greg got some healing from this. So appreciate you guys, and this is going to be part 2.
Well, here we go. We're going to be rolling back again.
We're back.
This is going to be part 2. We're getting into the senior year here. This would be the 2000 year. They were at Springfield High. They were 31-7, batted .333, 3 home runs, 7 doubles. Absolutely shoving on the mound, dude. 68 innings pitched, 1.13 ERA, 78 Ks. Let's talk about, let's go roster first. That'll be fun for me. So I went and looked it up. Remember these guys vividly. Brendan Connor, Swade Hinkle, Josh Huff, Nick Kunze, Jake Kuykendall, Kyle Ledbetter, Matt Mifflin, Kevin Reed, Zach Reinenberger, Pete Zalewski, Scott Sailing, Rusty Shieldman, Sean Shaw, Davey Summer, Nick Till, Dustin Vicari, Tim Wallin, David Webster, John Wenger, and then Mike Lister was up with you guys for a little bit. A lot of baseball dudes on there.
Love it.
Man.
Yeah, I'm glad because you went through that. It's the memory bank. It's crazy how, but all those guys are awesome dudes.
Yeah. So
great times.
What stands out about that senior year? What was special?
Well, I think, we've kind of touched on a little bit how much we sounds cheesy, but how much we grew as a team. Not everything was always sunshine and rainbows all the time, but we grinded. We got to where we wanted to go, but it took all of us.
Yeah.
And you look at you point out some numbers, and we've hit on it a little bit. The productivity in myself, at least offensively, may not have been ideal, but all those dudes were there to pick everybody up.
Right.
Myself, and I don't remember. I know Tim had some, some decent, really good numbers.
He had a strong year. I think he had a little bit of a, it wasn't the senior year he was expecting either.
Right.
If you think literally.
Yeah. But not to say, supporting whatever. Like it was, these guys carried the team.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I've had some good numbers on the mound, but overall, it was Reinenberger getting on base and Ledbetter and just the guys grinding throughout the lineup.
And you had some unsung heroes too. Like I remember Josh Huff had a big year.
Huffy, all those guys. You're right. They carried that team.
And those might not. I mean, when you think Springfield High baseball during that era, you think Greg Taylor and Tim Wallin. But like we already talked about, Kevin Reed absolutely diced that year. These guys stepped up in major ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Brendan Connor hit .333 too.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, those guys, like I said, it's the consistency factor that those guys brought was, it was a necessity. Absolutely.
So let's get into some Timmy Wallin stuff then. So you guys obviously played together since you were about 12. And I estimated, probably a good 400 to 500 games between you guys played together, suiting them up. That's a lot of time on a baseball field together, right?
Oh, yeah.
Before we get into some Timmy Wallin clips, what do you remember about Timmy as a player? What kind of stood out about him?
Well, I think his overall demeanor. He was, I don't know if stoic is the right.
I get that, yeah.
but just an even keel competitor at all times. Not too high, not too low. It may have been different on the football field, but there's different needs and that you need to meet on different sports. But just a solid, strong, just ox of a dude, just crushing baseballs.
He's hit a couple of the hardest balls I've ever seen hit.
I would agree.
Ridiculous.
There's one so
Mount Zion?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
It's in my
Steinwart called it one of the longest top 5 home runs he's seen ever.
Yes, I would agree. And his finish on this one, because I'm pivoting here. My mom used to make these highlight videos.
Oh, cool.
And so it was always to music, but I would use to rewind the Mount Zion home run.
Oh, it's on video?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Get that.
Oh, yeah. And this ball, and I swear to God, the wind was blowing in Mount Zion, and he freaking tattooed this ball. Yeah. Just tattooed it. And to Steiny's point, I don't think I saw a high school home run go any farther.
I mean, Tim had some pro tools on him. I was always, he had an interesting career, how it kind of ended up, but like top end bat speed and power.
For sure. For
a guy that's, I don't know, it's Timmy 6'1".
Yeah.
Solid guy, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
10, but man.
Just a all around, just good athlete, strong.
Yeah.
Good teammate.
Yeah.
Tim and I's relationship, I think, is unique in a positive way. Absolutely. To where we were there to support each other through different phases of our lives, which, I think is uncommon in a lot of ways. But then, to me, in my point, we had a special relationship.
Yeah.
It's not to sound goofy, but it was like I was always, or he was always my vice versa, like the Robin to the Batman, or the Pippen to the Jordan type. Just to use those. But
in that article, you guys had the dynamic duo.
The dynamic duo.
It was like Ruth and Gehrig. It had all these.
We were 6 days apart in birth. And we literally, we grew up together in so many different ways, and obviously on the field, but we complement each other. Whether he was having a great pitching game or, maybe in a slump on hitting or whatever, we were there to pick each other up.
Yeah.
And I think we fed off each other too, even from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that drive. You need that. You need that. Different reflection in the mirror in some way, shape, or form.
You guys' stats were always so kind of close.
Yeah.
Really kind of very similar in a lot of ways. So.
And like I said, it was a unique and very good relationship, and we still do. I try to catch up with him when I can, at least send him a text on his birthday, but it's been a long time. But yeah, we do. We need to catch up.
You've had some fun going back over all this stuff too. You want to get into some Timmy Wallin?
Yeah. Let's hear him.
There's one that's hilarious that I'm going to say for the end here.
I can only imagine which one.
Pushing each other.
Okay.
You guys were obviously kind of tied to the hip for a long time. Do you feel like you were ever driven by each other? Like, oh, Greg's hitting 400. Like, I got to hit 400. Or like, I got to step my game up. Was there friendly competition like that?
Yeah, dude, 100%. And that's kind of what I was racking my brain on. Like, there was never any overt or any even really subtle beat. It was always that kind of pushing each other. Like, if let's say I had a bad game and Greg had a great game, I'm going to be disappointed in myself for multiple reasons, right? It's like, damn, if Greg's going 2-4, I should be going 2-4.
Uh-huh.
And if he would have had a bad game and I had a bad game, then it'd be like, well, okay, well, I don't feel as terrible about my chance because right, you're so great.
Yeah,
but just that constant drive, but never in a vibe of wanting to see him fail or something. It was always just, let's get it, man.
Let's get it. Oh, actually, the name of the podcast is going to be revealed here soon. He said this quote a couple of times. You got anything on that?
Yeah, no, it's somewhat fascinating and just really cool that we share the same sentiment there.
Yeah,
and
pretty spot on.
And that's where we were like really connected in some way, shape, or form, just weird way that, to his point, it was always, hey, man, always cheering for him, always wanting him to succeed. And I think that mutual respect was huge.
And that's cool because you guys were kind of like alpha top dogs too. So sometimes those guys can kind of butt heads on a team, but it didn't seem like that was at all the case.
No. And I think, again, I use the word unique probably too often here, but a lot of times it could have gone, of course it could have gone one or two ways. We could have been, polar opposites and creating a divide, or what I think happened, especially at an early age, is like, look, man, we got something special. Yeah. We can do this. So, which is cool.
That's so cool. All right. Next one is going to be consistency.
I would say, like kind of like we talked about, Blake, like I've poured over all the stats to try to get a good perspective on this. And, I think the main thing would just be consistency. Mm-hmm. I think, just every year Greg was at the top, near the top or at the top of everything. I don't think, neither I nor he had, 95 mile an hour arms or, a whole lot of freakish skill sets, but like just, every game, Greg was going to get his numbers. Greg was going to make great plays. I was thinking about stuff that stood out, and, some of it is kind of a bad thing because, as I was looking through all these stats and, books, there were a lot of memories of like, no hitters, a lot of no hitters were in there. So, there was a lot of kind of like standout behaviors. So it kind of made it common. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So like, if you're, like, I don't know, 4 for 4 with a bomb and, some stud behavior wasn't uncommon to see frequently. So, it kind of got to be expected, but just that consistency.
Yeah.
And,
stud behavior wasn't uncommon. I think I'm going to name the episode. But it might be. He also said freakish things weren't uncommon as well. That's another clip. You got anything?
No, like I said, we were there for each other and a lot of, different phases of our lives. Yeah. And you lean on people, whether it's on purpose or, just unintentionally, but he was always there.
Yeah.
Always there. Just a great friend and great competitor, great teammate. It was just fun to do with him.
I love that. Here we go. Tim Wallin didn't have to wonder.
Yeah, so our career was so intertwined and like absolutely. Like just in terms of work ethic, it was always him pushing me, hopefully me pushing him. Yeah, and he's always going to be near the lead of the pack. Always going to be working hard. We've been playing together for so long, and around so many other good players. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those things where you didn't have to wonder about like, is Greg going to show up or it was just let's get it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it.
Oh yeah,
right.
Spot on, hit the nail on the head, and he was the same way. So, like we said, we just drive each other.
Next thing, freakish things weren't uncommon.
All right, so another one, just kind of a funny story. Like, I have a ton of memories of going to all these summer games, and the Taylors had this white van. I can't remember the model, but it was like, I don't know if you had any friends with those vans that had like, the big thing was, it had a TV in it so you could watch movies and play video games. Yeah, I get you. So, I don't know, just, that was the spot, man. If you were going on a road trip to some center turn, you wanted to be in the white van. Be in the Taylor van? Yeah. Yeah. Another a cool story about Greg's dad. He had the first no-hitter in Pride history.
Really? That is interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But also,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that kind of speaks to that, like, freakish things weren't uncommon. So it was just, all right, yeah, Greg threw a no-hitter. There was a ton of no-hitters throughout.
Yeah, that's what he spoke to that I thought was interesting. Like, there was just so much stud behavior that it just kind of became common. It's almost like not as interesting or like exciting when you do it all the time. You got anything?
No. I'm just hopefully the van. Good stuff.
I got a couple funny ones here coming. We got one more. Greg is a pitcher, and then I got two funny ones that I've been itching to get to. Here we go.
Good stuff. And I could be making this up, man, but I want to say he had kind of like an affinity or like looking up to like a Greg Maddux type. I mean, I know, their family was Cub fans, but he had good stuff. So good serve, good changeup. Definitely more technical than I was. Good speed. But it was, I don't know, for definitely for high school, it was like standout speed, but he did a lot with, upper 80s. I think that's fair, man. But upper 80s. Yeah. But as a pitcher, gosh, dude. So, and Blake, dude, as you know, I went through a ton of these stats, but like, I think I think his best year as a pitcher was some year during the Pride years.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning to you. He's got a great voice too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's like a coolness.
Oh yeah. He's always been
cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Just cool.
Cool, man. All right. Here are the funny ones. This one is called GT minus a letter.
I don't know. One more little story. So, sure. Greg's license plate in high school was GT. I want to say it was GT 725.
Okay.
And just always messing with each other in pranks. But let's just say if you cover up one letter in that, you're gonna have your boy. You cover up one letter with some athletic tape, and you're gonna have your boy riding around.
This happened.
Oh yeah, it wasn't just once, and I'd probably go at least a week before even noticing, and then it got to the point where I think it's probably Coach Hale was in on it, and everybody else was in on it. Yeah, everybody was getting me, and then I think. Well, no, I won't go there, but yeah,
keep that one for the locker room.
Yeah, well, that's the locker room talk.
Now, I had a similar thing my senior year. I remember, was Mrs. Greco there when you were there?
Yeah, I think so.
She's a literature teacher, I believe, but she was like big time with like the theater program there. She had a stack of bumper stickers on her desk always that said "Thespians do it on stage," and I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. So I would like steal them and then put them on my friends' cars before they would, they'd drive, like you said, they'd drive out for days.
Yeah.
Before you realize, I guess you're a thespian doing it on stage. All right, this is the best one. It says wise words from Dennis Taylor. You have any idea what this is going to be?
No.
I just thought this one really tickled me.
Yeah, I might.
Here we go. It's simple, but it's just great.
Yeah.
Oh, the last one was, Dennis and Sal, they really were always just very kind people. But I've got this memory at Schlitt where something had happened, and I don't know, some kid was talking shit, and I'm sure I did something stupid, and, who knows what I did. But I remember Dennis Taylor being like, Tim, you can't be an asshole your whole life.
Dennis, that's incredible. I never mentioned I really like that life advice. It's true.
Yeah, that tracks. That tracks right there. That would be a Dennis Taylor comment.
You just imagine saying that to like a 13 or 14-year-old and being like, yeah,
there's another one which I'm sure Tim knows, and I don't mean to go down this path yet, but Ryan Murphy,
of course, yeah,
one of the best, right?
Pleasant Plains, Lincoln,
Oh yeah,
Slew.
So, and Murph always tells this story, and we always bring it up, and just whenever we see each other. But Murph, if something wouldn't go right, like many of us would, either yell in our gloves or cuss out loud, or
Sure.
and he probably dropped some bombs or wrong words, and my dad goes up to him and he says, Murph, he said the SHI, and the F bomb, is like shit, and aren't on this team, so stop calling their names. And it was just,
That's great.
Yep, and that's a classic Denny Taylor line.
I love that, man. Well, we've kind of been through some of your senior year stuff. Before we kind of move on to more college stuff, I'd love to. Do you have any thoughts on the coaching staff there, on Steinward, on what made them, special, unique, just anything?
The first thing that comes to mind, they treat us like men.
Mm-hmm.
And they challenged us. Just to point out a couple different guys that, Coach Hale was there early on. Stash, Coach Elliott, Coach Trumper, Burke,
Coach Burke.
I mean, all those guys, very, very instrumental to in some way, shape, or form to the overall development of not only myself, but everybody there.
Coach Trumper too.
Yeah. Coach Trump, man.
Yeah.
Me and Trump, I think we also had a unique relationship. And, I used to, as Steinwart said, I didn't like talking to anybody.
Yeah.
And Trump would come down in the bullpen. And I think pretty sure I used to tell him where to go. And, don't come down here, or don't talk to me.
How would he take that?
I know for a fact he used to go back and tell Coach Steinwart, like, yep, he's ready to go.
He's got a real, kind of dry sense of humor.
Yep.
Too. So.
Yeah. He's like, yep. I think he's ready to go. And, depending on how the bullpen was going or how I would, either.
How'd you get that in your head that you wanted to do that?
What's that?
That you were not going to talk to anyone on a game day? Was it just the coaching staff?
I don't know.
I mean, you read about guys, I think it was maybe Roy Halladay, or there's pictures that I read are like that on game day.
Yeah. I think over time I was either exposed to, some different, guys doing different things or how they approached. Yeah. I mean, it becomes routine, and then.
Funny. As a 18, 17-year-old, you're telling your high school, your coach to take a walk. Get out of here. Yeah. Is that how it would go?
Pretty much.
That was.
But I should have always prefaced with all due respect, go.
Coach Steiny, get out of here.
Yeah. No, but I also, I want to point out Coach Elliott. And you hit the nail, right? He's a special dude. He had this calming presence. He, whenever he talked, it was so purposeful, so meaningful, soothing in a way.
Yeah.
Right. But that guy, he helped me a lot, especially from, we talk about, overthinking and pressing. He definitely was able to put things in perspective. Yeah. So, which was cool.
He's a special man.
Oh, yeah.
Effort, intensity, his willing to give.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into the story, but he showed me grace one time in my life that I didn't deserve it, and I will never, ever forget it. And it really just showed me a lot about who he is and his character. So shout out to Coach Elliott. That's a special guy.
Yep.
And he's amazing with fielding stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Hitting, conditioning, all that. He's a real asset to that coaching.
Intensity. I honestly, I think I took some of that and used that.
Sure.
An effort to, the highs and lows. It can't be too high, it can't be too low.
Right.
He's super even keel. Yeah. And I think that rubbed off even on Tim and some of the other guys.
Or his even was tense, or intense in a good way, right?
Right, correct. Yeah, absolutely.
He lived there.
Absolutely.
In a passionate way.
For sure.
And I always remember that about him, is that when he was sick or he not feeling good, he would even be more passionate. He would fight his sickness with more effort. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I always remember that. So if I have a sick day, sometimes I'm I'm going to Coach Elliott my way through this shit.
Coach Elliott your way. But all in all, that group, they all brought something different.
Yeah.
Right. And again, and that's what you need to have a good club. I mean, look at them. They've been together for
oh my God,
how long?
I mean, I know Steinwart's been there for over 40 years. I don't know when the rest of the staff came, but they were certainly there before 2000, I think, or most of them. So like 30-something years, 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible, right?
All of them made a difference, and they still are
together like that.
No
coaching staffs for that long.
No,
nuts.
Yeah.
Well, you got nothing else? I'd love to move on to college stuff now.
Well, let's do it.
With it?
Oh yeah.
All right, man. So, putting on your big boy pants and heading down to St. Louis all by yourself. How'd that feel?
That's an understatement.
For the first time.
Yeah, that's again. It was me trying to create my own path, and of course, with that comes a lot of unfamiliarity, a lot of change. To your point, putting on your big boy pants and doing it all on your own. But I'm here to tell you, I'm not special. So everybody has ever gone through it. They've had to experience that. So, but yeah, all in all, it was an experience. It was different. It became heavy at times. A lot of people don't know I'm probably a mama's boy, and love being around my family. It was just that security that just being around family. So that was different. Getting to meet new guys, and of course I didn't know anybody going to a new team.
Coach Hendrickson ended up talking about how close this group is. Like, you guys are still like incredibly close.
Yes. Yeah.
Get to that, but
yeah. That in itself is, in my opinion, truly special about that group is how close and how quickly we became close and gel as a team. And that's, I think, what made us especially successful that first year of junior college. Completely different walks of life. Really, and that in my mind, that's what it's about. How you bring these guys together. And I think Darin, of course, fantastic job of that. So
love to hear that. What was like when you first get there? Was there any competition at short, or do you feel like you belonged? Or you see all these other guys are studs coming in too.
Yeah, and you hear that often, right? It's one of those things where you sit down with your team, and it's kind of that how coaches approach it. You guys were studs at all your different schools, and here you are coming together. But yeah, that was kind of the common theme when you get there. But as far as shortstop, I think there was an immediate need for a shortstop. I think they had some guys that had left either year before. So that opened up a vacancy there at short. So I think my role in that team was just come in and play.
Yeah.
Come in and play.
Your Coach Hendrickson talked about that. He said that you guys were so talented that it didn't have to be like one guy that felt like he had to carry that roster. Like,
no.
You guys all carried it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
And I think also, and you probably may share the same feeling, but JUCO rosters back in that day, it was talent everywhere. Because, and I don't know if it was just a thought process behind guys, focusing on the junior college route, but the idea of potentially getting drafted within the 2-year span versus having to wait till your junior year, that was appealing.
Yeah.
And really that played a lot into my decision to go into junior college.
Sure.
And seeing what people that have gone through junior college before, those opportunities that presented themselves, it's like, all right, yeah, cool. I see the path.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had some studs.
What was that first year like? So you get drafted in the 42nd round this year.
Yeah, I don't even think they have 42nd round or 42 rounds anymore.
They got 20.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. So I texted you. I texted Coach Hendrickson. These stats do not exist, or they're not online. He doesn't have them, so they're in the wind. So obviously, you had a strong enough year to get drafted.
Yeah. So how do you get drafted? Right. That's a question. Like, how do you get drafted? All right.
Well, you had a spectacular game in here.
So this is where I'm going with it. It's how do you get drafted? One, it's consistency. And it's honestly, for a lot of guys, it's showing up in the moment.
Timing, yeah.
And even my close friends from JUCO, they still give me trouble about it. It's like, oh yeah, you got drafted just because it's one game, and just razzing me and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I looked at it as somewhat of a feather in the cap, because I knew there was a greater goal that I still had in mind. But felt very blessed, very fortunate. It's an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool.
We're already there. So let's tell me about getting drafted.
So I was, it was unbelievable.
Yeah. Everyone's dream, right?
Everyone's dream.
First round or 42nd round, whatever. Your name got called.
Yeah, name got called, and one, it was with the Yankees. So you're like, wow, okay.
And there's something about the Yankees and I don't know, Greg Taylor. It just seemed like I could see you in pinstripes. Could have seen you.
I can still see myself now. Right? Just joking. But it was cool. I was out in New England playing the collegiate league. Mm-hmm. I was doing my laundry.
Really?
Yeah, and Carrick Jackson, who's now the head coach at Mizzou. Mm-hmm. He's a pitching coach.
Yeah.
When we were out in New England playing for the Danbury Westerners, doing my laundry, he comes in, and I think nothing of it. I was like, dude, you just got drafted.
Man.
And I probably fell against a window or a wall or whatever because, as I had achieved something that I set out to do. Yeah. I just didn't know the timing of it. But blessed, man. Truly blessed.
What was that conversation then afterwards with Scott? Was it always this is going to be a draft and follow situation, or was there any talk?
So I remember it was Dave Jorn, who's I think at Arkansas, and he's done a lot of different stuff. But he drafted me, called. I think he talked to my parents before, and then we got on a call. But I think he let in. It's like, yeah, this is draft and follow. Right off the bat. But then I was like, what are the other choices? And he's like, well, you can sign for $800 and something bucks a month, and you go down the what if path again. It's like, would I have? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just to say I did it and have that opportunity to actually play pro ball. Hell yeah.
Right.
Looking back, if you know what you know, now it's you.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. Whatever.
That's interesting. Well then. So they told you from off the bat it was draft and follow. Do you feel like that made the next year more pressure, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't want to get too far ahead of you, but let's stick with the moment of, did you call mom and dad after this? Like, we did it.
Honestly, man, I cannot even remember how that went. I remember other guys on that summer team being disappointed because they didn't get the call. But then I probably shared a tear with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me. It was it's a cool moment.
It's the moment. Kidding me? Between a father and a son, all the times playing catch, all the battles in the batting cage, the batting practice, the pep talks, it's a very special thing.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Yeah, it was cool. And you go through, you hit these different checkpoints in your career, the phases of your career, what you think they should be.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, yep, we got there.
That's a good check.
Yeah, we got there.
Yeah,
we got there.
I'm on the right path.
Yep, we got there, and
things right.
Yep, exactly. But super proud of the situation and having that experience. Yeah. So it was cool.
Yeah. Okay, so then you're obviously a strong enough year to get drafted. You go up. Was this the NECBL?
Yeah, NECBL.
What team was that?
Danbury Westerners.
Right. How was that experience?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was different.
It's a good league. I mean, it's not Cape Cod, but it's like a tier below that, wouldn't you say? Kind of in that.
Yeah, we actually, our all-star games were against Cape Cod.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just right below them.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, obviously Cape was the league to play in for summer. But even then, to get a call from the NECBL, I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And come to find out, I was playing with two guys up in Danbury, Mike Budak and Mike Eilers, and even one of our second basemen. Well, he was a shortstop when I got to Louisville. JT LaFountain was on a team out there. And so not even knowing that Louisville was even in the picture, I was like, oh, all right, well, cool. I know these guys.
Right.
But, yeah, so obviously performed well during JUCO to get the call going up there. But
how did you perform that summer?
It was it has ups and downs, just like any,
First time with wood bats, seeing really high level arms every day. It can be tough. It was my first experience in like the CICL was tough because of that.
Yeah. They there's dudes everywhere out there. I mean, any summer ball team or any summer ball league.
Was it a good experience for you though? Like where you lived, all that stuff too, and coaching and
Yep. Yeah. There's our head coach was named Mo Mohart.
Mo Mohart.
And he was older coach at the time, and I don't know what where he's at or and so on, but I would imagine he's passed at some point. But super old school, and he was my kind of dude, like just hard nosed. But some of the guys is kind of on that cusp between the new school baseball and old school baseball. What was starting to trend of, what was taking over at the time, different philosophies, especially hitting. I think I tried to adapt or, adopt some of the concepts that he was doing, but it just didn't really mesh.
Can you be a little more specific on that?
Well, he had this hand, from where your hands were positioned, and you basically cock the bat forward and then get your momentum swing going. So I was trying that, and
didn't work well for you.
Didn't always work well.
Okay,
but so then fielding wise, I played short, I played outfield, second base. But yeah, we had good quality team.
Yeah,
for sure.
So after this year of your first year of JUCO summer ball, were you thinking you needed to improve on anything? Was anything jumping out, or continue on?
So after the draft and follow, part of what they identified as areas to work on was, obviously getting bigger.
Mm-hmm. What were you weighing about this time?
So I'm pretty sure I was like 170 something coming out of high school.
Yeah.
And then at first year of JUCO,
it was like wiry strong.
Yeah. And I think I bulked up to what I say bulk up. Like I think I got about 186. I don't know for a fact at JUCO, but after I got drafted, like that was the focal point.
Stronger.
Yep, stronger. They wanted me to hit for more power, and that following year, so sophomore year of JUCO, I think I had 9 home runs in probably the first 3 quarters of the season, and then I remember having to get cortisone shots in my
second year or first year.
Second year.
Yeah.
And I had hand issues. When the
injury started? That was my next question.
What's that?
Is this when the injury started?
No, so injury started freshman year of JUCO.
Let's go.
So we were at 3 Rivers, fielding the ground ball. Ball was hit to me, banged off, I think, my pinky finger. And so that's when I was out for broken fingers. Mm-hmm. And so that's when some of these other things started to manifest.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that maybe you're not necessarily so close to baseball, but touch and feel is so key. I mean, every position, right? But I think with the amount of high expectations I've had for myself, and then not necessarily feeling 100% of, so I think mechanically I may have started to adjust some things, whether subconsciously, compensating for things. It started to spiral pretty quick.
Yeah.
And
you ended up having issues with the yips and throwing to first, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I mean, it's so crazy how at least in my experience, my stuff, my mental and my injury stuff were kind of correlated. Like when I first got hurt, my first time, and then you're coming back and your body's not the same, right? And it doesn't move quite the same. And it's like you lose that, or at least I felt like I had this like shield of confidence kind of before.
Oh, yeah.
And then once that was broken, it was like I was always trying to get it back. And as my body got further and further away from what I thought I was, it was like, there goes your confidence. And then you're like scrambling and you're trying to make adjustments and you're making hitting adjustments and throwing adjustments. And oh shit, I don't throw like I used to. And I don't hit like I used to all of a sudden. Is that?
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Oh, for sure. It's that mind and body connection. Yeah. If it's not on the same page, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where, I couldn't even throw around the horn.
Really?
Yeah.
Getting anxiety if there was a strikeout because it was going to get thrown around or after. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yeah. It was,
man, I've been there.
I couldn't even throw around the horn. Then it turned into, check out this. I had 12 errors in 2 games, like a doubleheader.
Oh, man.
And I think it was at Flow Valley.
Heavy day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Throwing. And then, there's probably a booted ball somewhere in there. But, 12 errors in one game. Or not one game, but a doubleheader. But then it was, I would always, guys would start, in infield, outfield, guys would start wearing helmets in the dugout. Yeah. No, like on our own team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, trying to bring light to it.
Right.
But,
and like on some level it's funny, but on some level it hurts too.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. But you got to be able to, to laugh at yourself.
So what's going through your head when you're like, I can go to first base?
Yeah. Well,
this is like Steve Sachs,
Chuck Knobloch,
all these guys that had the yips, Hank Hill.
Yeah.
Like what's going through your head during this?
It's, one, it's a lonely feeling.
Yeah.
And, because you're just trying to figure it out, trying to find the touch. And
the more you like try to get it and like force it, it's like the further it gets away from you.
Yeah.
Sand in your hands.
For sure. Yep. And that's, it would come and go.
Okay. So sometimes you'd be okay.
Yep. Sometimes it'd be okay.
What would bring it up?
Yeah,
spark it?
It's a great question. Like I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that as the expectations got heavier that I was putting on myself, right? It got a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And especially, once you got drafted, it's like, okay, well, you create this false reality. It's like, okay, well, who's in the stands? Is the cross checker here? Is the scouts there?
I'm blowing it.
Yeah. Or but the point of all this is a lot of this stuff that a lot of guys go through, it's all perceived. It's like we make this stuff up instead of being able to see it for what it is. And I think I put this spotlight on myself that the perfectionism, got to an all-time, high, and it was just unfair.
Can you define that? Like what your definition of perfectionism for yourself?
Well, it's making every play, making the routine play, because we throw around the word consistency a lot. That's what it is at the end of the day.
What kind of inner monologue is going on when things go bad?
Well, it's
negative self-talks, or what's going on?
Well, at first, yeah, for sure, it's the self-doubt, the being hard on yourself. But then, you lean on different people, try to provide some perspective, and, then that positive self-talk starts to get a little bit better. Yeah. But yeah, it's how you treat yourself is key.
Ooh.
How you treat yourself, is definitely key. But, that's a hard time, shifting back to the right headspace. And again, you only know what you know.
What were you trying to do to right the situation? And this is obviously like early 2000s, like people were not really talking a lot about sports psychology and things like that. I remember your coach Darin saying that he wished he could have done more. He just didn't know that much.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember approaching Darin, and because Darin, his background was awesome, right? He's high level coach. He was at the time, I think he was throwing BP for the Cardinals.
Oh, wow.
And he just put it wherever he wanted. But anyway, like he knew a lot about baseball, but to his point, you wish you would have known more. I wish you would have known more. I wish a lot of people knew more. I wish I knew, right?
Dark ages and that kind of stuff.
And so the stigma was still pretty heavy.
Yeah.
As baseball players, we're very prideful.
Let anyone know that you're
right.
That you're suffering, or you're not the man, or you're not totally confident.
No, and because for the longest time, I was always in control of that, and being able to, just let it go through the infield and hit my target, hear the glove pop. It's like I was just craving that, just feeling of freedom, basically. But yeah.
Would there be any difference in games versus practice? Like, would you be free in practice and could throw it, or would there still be issues then?
Yeah, I think it was still there in practice.
Okay.
Because I think over time, then it became a thing.
Yeah.
But I really don't think. Yeah, I take that back. It was probably games are more. It showed a little bit more in games.
So, was it pinky injury your first year there, or is that
first year?
Okay, so then let's move on to your second year. If you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got drafted and followed. There's pressure on you to, show this scout that you are worthy of being signed before that next draft pops off.
Yep.
How did this year go for you? I think you just said you hit a bunch of tanks early in the year.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Dings?
Yeah, it was 9 within like the first, 3 quarters of the season.
You got to feel like, well, I'm doing everything that I need to do to get signed.
I thought for sure. I thought for sure. But I think defensively, and I think the question marks were, that the mental, state. But I honestly, I feel like, I did, but realistically, if I'm a scout and I've, looking to bring somebody on, it's like, nah, not right now.
Yeah.
Let's let him go, develop, see if he can get through some of this stuff.
Was there a conversation with the scout, like before the draft, like we're not going to sign you?
No.
It's nothing.
Nope.
No communication.
No, I take that back. I think there was that, I forget how they would either tell you, it's like, yeah, we're releasing your rights or whatever it's called. So I think that conversation was there.
Hard conversation?
To be honest with you, I don't even remember.
Really? Okay. So maybe they're not as impactful as I
No.
Okay, so any more injuries that sophomore year?
Sophomore year.
Dealing with kind of the mental stuff from your...
Yeah, I think that was a carryover year too, just trying to work through some of this stuff.
Okay.
But I do remember playing more outfield, center field at Forest Park that second year. And
throwing issues?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Darin and I, we had mutually agreed that it's probably a good thing to maybe remove myself from that environment to be able to really kind of focus on, getting back to where I needed to be.
What were you doing to get back to where you were available?
Well, and that's I was reading the mental game of baseball.
Harvey Dorfman.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
Yep, and that was one of those where that's kind of the go-to for people. It's like, boom, here. All right. Oh, you having a problem? Boom, here, read that. But I'm not openly saying, I'm very, in my faith, but I did. I prayed hard.
Yeah.
I prayed hard. But I also, what got me back. A lot of times when things were, I just remembered my why. Why am I playing?
Right.
Why did I even start playing this game? And that got me back to even keel a lot of times. But it was hard because it was A lot of ebbs and flows.
Man, you're doing great. This is everything I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Seriously, you're doing. I feel it, man. This is a special episode.
Yeah, but I think from a Yip standpoint, it's a lot of guys will tell you it's deeper than, just like sometimes, or maybe it's not. Sometimes it can be mechanical, but then how it evolves and how it manifests into other things. But I think it was more mechanical, more feel type that really brought it on. But again, as I mentioned, just the high expectations, and I think it was kind of a perfect storm when it all happened.
Does anything else stand out about this year to you that you feel like we haven't touched on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we had a good run. But yeah, it's all in the experience, and it's a great experience.
What about you getting moving on to the next level, moving on to Louisville? Were there any other schools talking to you? How did this go for you?
Yeah, I had offers from Mizzou, SLU. I had another offer from, I forget which school it was in Louisiana, a smaller D1, but
Lafayette, Monroe.
No, I can't remember. Northern Louisiana or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was Mizzou. I got an offer from Mizzou, and Coach Jameson, I think at the time, really wasn't able to give me a clear picture on where I fit at that time. And I think as my development, as I was getting bigger, my body type translated more to third base.
Okay.
And, did I want that? Whatever. But it wasn't clear as to where I fit in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you wanted a little more clarity on that. Like, if we see you as a third baseman or center fielder or shortstop, this is where we're going to put you.
Yeah, and even Darin, I think over time was like, yeah, you're tracking more, you're trending more as a third baseman, because those power numbers are starting to jump.
Yeah, bigger too.
Yeah. But so I think those are really the only ones that I truly other had, significant offers from. Mm-hmm. And of course, Louisville.
Yeah. Well, a little unique for a Southern-ish, big time baseball school to be looking around the Midwest during that time. How'd you guys get hooked up?
Honestly, I can't remember.
I think actually he's got a clip on it. So when we get
I can't remember.
Okay. Did you take visits to Louisville and these places?
Yeah, so we went on a visit, my dad and I. That was a cool experience too.
Yeah, it was our fun.
But when I walked into Louisville, I was like, all right, this feels comfortable. And I don't know if it was just the atmosphere of the town, people, whatever. But I remember walking in, and it was the old Cardinal Stadium, the old AAA stadium, which was actually a football stadium at the same time before they had Louisville Papa John Stadium. All AstroTurf. I was like, all right, well, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I get, true hops every time.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make an error. and then you walk into this basically it's like a AAA locker room. Like it was professional locker room. You had big screen TVs, pool tables, ping pong tables. You had huge showers, steam room, saunas. It's cool. But when I was there, it was Rick Pitino they had a presentation for Rick Pitino. This was, I think, a year after 9/11 or something like that. But I think he had some family members that were in the towers. And so we presented him, they presented him at the time with, I forget what it was, but he was there, he talked. And then, I looked up to Rick Pitino, read his books.
Legendary.
But that in itself, just being in that environment, I was like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's
big time.
Yeah, and guys were super receptive, very nice. But I think anybody will tell you, and you too, it's like you just go somewhere and you're like, all right, yep, feels good.
Yep.
And I think also I remember Lelo, Tino Martinez was Lelo's brother-in-law. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so back in my mind, and I don't know if it was even, if there's anything to it, and I was like, all right, well, he's got a Yankees connection.
Oh,
right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But,
Get you back in the mix.
Yeah. And so there's all these different contributing factors, whether they are actually real or not, but, it just felt right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Before we move on out of our forest, I got a lot of Darin Hendrickson clips.
Ooh, let's go.
Getting through some of these?
Yeah, let's go.
And now a few words from our sponsors. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Washco Strength and Speed, located at 3604 North Peoria Road, 217-899-3233. Of course, I'm talking about Jared Washco, the Springfield area firefighter, the former pitching standout at SHG and SCI. He is credentialed. He is a CPT, CSCS. Those are the highest credentials you can get in the strength and conditioning game. I think he is absolutely fantastic working with young athletes, probably the best in the area, working with baseball players. His results say it all. He's worked with high school guys, college guys, pro guys, and they keep coming back to him. They get bigger, they get faster, they get stronger, more explosive, better at their sport, less injury prone. He handles it all. He does arm care work. He does speed work. Go see Jared if you are a local athlete trying to get the most out of yourself. Invest in yourself. Go see Jared. We are also brought to you by Sheehan & Sheehan Lawyers, located at 1215 South 4th Street, Suite A. They can be contacted at 217-544-0701. I'm talking Pat Sr., Pat Jr., and Willie. They can be contacted for adoption needs, agricultural law, business and commercial law, estate planning, real estate planning, taxation, traffic and minor traffic offenses, personal injury, wrongful death suits. And I grew up with Willie playing baseball on the Southwest Braves. We were state champs. He played high school baseball and soccer at SHG. Pat Jr. was an accomplished baseball player at SHG, SCI, and finally the U of I. We really appreciate the Sheehans here. Love this guy. Love this family. Great, great family. So go see these guys. Appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Hammers Radon Mitigation Solutions. You can reach them at 217-670-4292, hammersradon@gmail.com, or head on over to their website, hammersradonmitigation.com. They do exactly what you need. This is everything radon that you can think of. This is Les Hammers. This is a Springfield firefighter, a former standout football player at Jacksonville, Truman State, and then played a little pro ball, a little arena ball himself. Since opening, Hammers Radon Mitigation Solutions have become masters of their craft. Their commitment to quality mitigation, exceptional services, and incomparable customer care keep our homeowners safe. They never stop improving and will continue to expand their offerings. Get in touch with Les today. You will not be disappointed. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Les. We are also brought to you by Cornerstone Financial Services. This is my good buddy Ryan Kaiser, who has 18 years in the business. They are located at 2001 West Monroe Street, 217-718-4670. This is an absolute baseball family, the Kaiser family. They're Cubs crazy. They're part of the Arsenal family. Ryan specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, is a certified financial planner, and does wealth management. There's over 60 years of experience in that building with other financial services guys. Please go see them for anything you might have in this field. We really appreciate you. Big fan of Ryan Kaiser. We are also brought to you by Milner Dentistry, located at 755 South Grand Avenue West. They can be reached at 217-528-3384. Dr. Ty and his staff are incredible. The place is clean. They do amazing work. They can handle all your dentistry needs. Thanks again to Dr. Ty for agreeing to sponsor us here. He was a standout at Rochester, SCI, and then later had a really cool story of walking on at the U of I. Have a ton of respect for this guy. Please go support Dr. Ty and Milner Dentistry. We are also brought to you by Body Cemetery, located at 2201 West White Oaks Drive, bodycemetery.com. More specifically, Chad Marshik, the owner, head trainer. This guy is just amazing on so many levels. He is capable of training anyone from a child
to a pro athlete to just your normal everyday person to the elderly. And not only is he a trainer, but he is also adept with, physical therapy, nutrition. Everything is going to be customized to you and what you need. There's a movement analysis when you first come in to address any deficiencies you have. It's all customized. Chad is the most positive, happy guy I've ever been around. Body Symmetry will get you right. I would, put my faith in Chad and his trainers any day. So go to bodysymmetry.com, get set up. Chad, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go recruiting stories. Start off.
I remember vividly because everybody remembers a recruiting story here and there, but some you don't. But this one, they took me to, like, they called it the only restaurant in town after the game to sit down with his family and talk a little bit and kind of get to know him on a more personal level. And, but when I see him play, it was an easy decision to recruit him, and I just didn't know that at that time we would get a kid out of Springfield, Illinois, to come down to St. Louis. But you got to remember back when Greg was playing there, 99, 2000, 01, 02 time frame. There was not social media, and you could still slide a kid under the radar. And now you could never do anything like that. It just would never work. And that was the beauty of recruiting. And if you worked hard and you got on the phone and you found hidden gems, you usually got good players and had a good team. And that was like, that sounds unheard of in today's world, but that's the way you did it. And it's called recruiting. But now certainly recruiting changed. And so we went to Springfield. I went up there to see him personally myself. And when you're at JUCO, you are the recruiting coordinator as well as the head coach. So you just go get your guys and find them. But he played real well that day, and it was uber athletic, to say the least. And I just was pleasantly surprised when he said yes and joined us. And then when he got to Forest Park, it was certainly a fun ride with him. And I think his growth was an interesting story. So it was a good, it was a no-brainer recruit as far as talent. He was. What you got?
No, I'm laughing because I feel like we went to Kreckles.
I was wondering.
It was right down the street from Lanford Ballpark.
Kreckles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, they have amazing. It's very much like a Steak and Shake.
Yeah, that and
Kreckles custard.
Yeah, Kreckles that's where we went, and so that's what he's referring to. But he's probably thinking like, man, I've never been to a place like this. But I guarantee you probably didn't have a better burger. You never know.
My little daughter loves them. She keeps asking for Kreckles burgers.
Yeah.
You got anything else, or keep it rolling?
Yeah, keep it rolling.
Oh, beautiful. Let's go. Greg is a player.
Greg as a player was, he was very athletic, played shortstop, had an erratic throwing arm, but strong. Bad, and just, looking back, I didn't realize how much, kind of how much real scuffle he had with the mental part of the game. And I wish, we were more in tune with that back then. I don't blame myself. I don't blame other people or coaches. But I do wish that, the yips and stuff would have been a bigger part of where we are with, to help him. So we could have helped him earlier. Some stuff that he needed. And, I set him up with a sports psychologist, I remember, but there weren't a lot of those around at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I just remember Greg was very, very talented, and, he clearly had all the makings of a no-brainer Division I player. At that time, we had a great team, by the way, too. It was a team of many D1 kids, and a couple drafts were on that team in JUCO. So Greg fit right in, and he kind of, didn't have to be the guy to carry us by any means.
Didn't have to be the guy. That's what I remember.
Oh yeah.
So stacked.
Yeah.
You got anything?
No, he's spot on, man. like to think that there is more of an awareness of a need to be more in tune with the mental aspect, and I think he and I we've talked a lot about it, just kind of reflecting on our years together. But I know he's implemented some things into, or at least trying to, within his program, because it is a thing. It is a thing, and we've covered a little bit that you don't always know. You don't always know, and a lot of guys aren't willing to share. But he was a very, very big part of my playing career, and I owe a lot to him. So
next up, Darin Hendrickson, tools guy.
Probably our best tools guy on the team, from a position player standpoint. And we had a really, really good team. I mean, and Greg would tell you that it was a team of, our second baseman was the flu, and we had, I'm forgetting guys, but we had guys go all over. I mean, Sienna, we had 2 drafts that didn't go, and they just got drafted. So Murray State, Xavier. I mean, it was a loaded group back then, and this is 25 years ago.
A couple more. Keep going. Or what you got? You got anything?
No, I'm just already reminiscing on our squad, but yeah, keep going.
So you guys were loaded.
We were, and
the whole roster go D1.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Talking about the group, here we go. The best part about that group.
I would say this: that they were very committed. Like, we didn't have one leader. We had a lot of kids playing for each other, and that are still close today. Here's the best part about that group: Greg and his teammates from that team all still get together to this day for Christmas dinner every year, and each of them picks a plate with their spouses.
Mm-hmm.
And their kids play together in Little League, and so that's unusual because the volume of, I think it's 6 of them that were all on the same team from, a 2-hour radius. And I think that's the thing I remember the most about it. It's truly, an honor to coach that group of people because they were beyond their time as far as closeness. And I think that I can think of that group of 6 people leading our team, and not one individually so much. It's just that I just think that was a special. As a coach, you said, "Well, whichever year could be like that." And man, that was it for me. So, yeah, I think that's my biggest memory of Greg. I just think he battled a lot of stuff, and like I said, I wish we could have helped him.
Yeah, you can tell how in high regard he holds that group that you guys had. It's like it was a special period.
Yeah, there's certain things that hit a little bit differently, and like I said, I'm an emotional dude, but you just don't realize until later on, like, how important people are. I hold those guys very, very close.
Yeah.
And I do. I love them. I love those guys. I love those teammates. But even before that, we would always, we had these bowling nights. And this was like post college, and, I had moved away, somewhat disconnected to these guys. And then I moved back, cause after Louisville, I went to Tampa, and migrated back towards, St. Louis. But the reason why I came back to St. Louis was just because of those guys.
Wow.
And they, and you know how it is. It's, you see guys, you haven't seen in forever, and you just pick up where you left off. And that is special.
Yeah.
So, it gets heavy emotionally, just reflecting on stuff, but it's cool. And I'm just happy to have been a part of it.
I'm looking forward to this one because you talked a little bit about earlier about you had like a really good day. That kind of people joked about, oh, you got drafted.
Yeah. Oh, the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
He was going to be a good player. He was recruited by a lot of people, and then I'll never forget the best recruiting story of Greg is the day at Jefferson College where they were loaded. By the way, they were an elite team that we kind of ran down his sophomore year and beat them all 4 times and went to, the College World Series at JUCO, and which was, obviously a great memory for us because, growing up, Jefferson was really good, and they always ran great players out there. But Greg had a single-handedly, I believe he hit 2 home runs, 7 RBIs down at Jeffco, and the Yankees were there, and a national guy and a Midwest guy were there for the Yankees, and he had the game of his life, honestly, against drafted arms, like really good pitchers for Jeffco. And I just said, well, you got yourself drafted in one day, literally, because no, it was a phenomenal showing. And it wasn't an accident. He's very talented. Putting it all together over a long stretch is hard. And I think, getting to see that. But at the time, I knew the guys at Louisville real well. It was, Lelo Prado was the coach, and a friend of mine that I had met on a trip down there, and he really popped in to see Greg, and he was there that day as well. And so it was either the Yankees or Louisville in my book when we left Hillsborough for the 3 that day.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, it was going to be, when you have that kind of a game and against that team, kind of go, well, this guy can play,
I'm so glad that he spoke about this in clip form because it's cooler to hear a coach speak about it than if you were like, man, I had this really awesome day where I hit a bunch of jacks and did this and that. But hearing him kind of talk about it in a magical way, I love it.
Yeah, that's I've never heard that, but no, it was fun. I remember, I think that defensively, like that was probably my best game.
Yeah, great day.
And it wasn't just the routine plays. It was, showed some flash that day. I remember going, forehand side behind second base. And instead of spinning, I threw on the run back, opposite, and it was right there. But yeah, I remember I hit those 2 home runs, and I had a couple other hits, and there were home runs where, this, it's the ones you don't feel.
Yeah.
And it was off. I know one guy was supposed to be going to the Cubs or something like that. But, like I said, it's all about timing.
That's the dang truth. Man, we've been going for 3 hours now. I feel like we just started.
Really? Yeah.
I hope you're not.
Oh, no, this is great.
Greg had the idea of starting at 9 today. And I wanted to start at noon. Then we went back and forth a little bit. And I kept thinking, I kept looking at this because I have this. I print all this out, kind of how I want it to go. And I was like, man, we got a lot here. And I just feel like if Greg is going to get deep into the weeds and some of this, I was like, I need a big window. So I was like, let's start at 9. He drove to St. Louis, and this is just magical.
Yeah, I get talking, so my apologies.
No, that's what this is all about, man.
Yeah,
the celebration of your journey. Last one, story time.
One of my favorite funny things to say about the whole thing is that I think his dad and mom, first of all, they're great people, by the way. His parents are wonderful.
Great family.
And I think when they sent their son away to Forest Park in the city of St. Louis, it probably was overwhelming. And so I always joke about, they call themselves, his dad and the group, a couple other dads call themselves the second guessers club of my coaching. And they always joke that, we finally figured out that you were right a lot more than us. And I said, well, I would hope so, because I think they probably had 4 or 5 beers before every game. We're a little, I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but they were a little more, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? But they were, I think, I'm a younger guy. I was a coach, and they didn't really know a lot about what was going on. And I think when I did that, they were kind of like, well, he has to probably, get through some of this. And then I ended up, on the recruiting trail, we kind of started getting some better players, and we were winning. And then we went to the World Series. They're like, yeah, we kind of owe you an apology. what you're doing is working. So that was my joke about. But I love those guys. The whole group is tremendous. They're still, very close. In a lot of ways, you kind of go through periods when you coach at a few different spots, and certainly you have your groups that you are closer with and then stay in touch with you. But baseball meant a lot to that group. Baseball was very important, and they loved it. And
that concludes our Darin Hendrickson.
Oh, spot on, man. The Second Guessers Club.
You never heard that one?
Oh, no. We still talk about it to this day.
Second Guessers Club?
Yeah. Well, what? Just build off that a little bit. They used to they figure out which hotel rooms they were in on trips, and then of course they'd go find Darin, and then they'd have a couple pops or whatever after, and that's how it all started.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to name some of these guys, and Kevin Mulder, Adam Jansen, Pat Evers, Adam Mason, AJ Juice Otto, Jake Friedrich, Sean Hampton, Lou Beatty. And I'm probably forgetting some, but
impressive recall.
Well, that was the group, right? And then it was super unique and super special because I think even Lelo may have made a comment at some point, which I kind of held on to, and a lot of times, whatever team you're on or throughout your career, it's like you might, stay in contact with like 5 dudes, or you keep on one hand. And I go back to that a lot. And to Darin's point, we meet every year around Christmas, and that's become a special tradition. And
you just named about 10 names. Is that about how big this group is?
Well, it throughout the course, I mean, everybody's kind of gone their different directions, but there's 6 of us, 5 or 6 of us, I can't remember. Still go to dinner, but it's cool. It is really cool.
Love it.
Yep.
So after this, is this your first experience in the NYCBL with the Wellsville Nitros? I thought that's what I had.
Yes. So
between Louisville and Forest Park?
Yeah. So correct. After second year of junior college, that summer leading into Louisville, was New York.
How was that?
Correct
Experience?
It was fun. Yeah. Host family.
Better than the New England, or similar?
Actually, honestly, I found that whatever summer league you go to, you're going to have pockets of talent.
Yeah.
I think the NECBL was more quote unquote, prestigious or high level, or, somewhat comparable to Cape.
Yeah.
But, the NYCBL, I had guys on my team, Jeremy Accardo. He had a big stint in major leagues.
ISU?
Yeah.
He was a shortstop that could throw like high 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And so, yeah, when we were, and he was
me when I went to ISU on my visit as a senior.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So Jeremy Accardo, cool dude, super good dude. But yeah, he was at short. And I had played third mostly, when we were in NYCBL.
Ridiculous arm.
But then, this was even, I think he wasn't even on the radar as a pitcher. Like he pitched every once in a while for ISU. But then he took off.
Well, the story I remember, I think they told me when they were recruiting me, was like, they were like, he's going to leave, so come here. We want you to be our shortstop.
Uh-huh.
He ended up staying or something like that. But he just like sat on the mound and threw like mid-90s fuzz.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have this in my back pocket.
Ridiculous.
Like, what the?
And
then went on to like have a 10-year career.
I think he'll probably tell you too, and I haven't talked to him in years, probably 20 years. It's like he probably says like, yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I don't know. but like, one of the guys that I hated to face in that league, and you may remember this guy, Dallas Braden.
Oh yeah.
So he threw the heaviest. Yeah. With the A's.
Yeah.
He threw the heaviest ball.
Really?
And just, I mean, he would wear my wood bats out. And I remember, yeah, he was a character too on the mound. Kind of side hat, and probably similar to what you would picture some of these YouTube or shorts you see. The guys going crazy on the mound, just talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a talent too. But
how would you think you're about to say something about your host family? I cut you off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, yes, they were great people, older family, welcomed us, me and Jake Friedrich and, another guy. They'd have dinner made for us and stuff like that. But our host family, our host house was pretty cool. We actually had like almost an attached apartment type.
Your own kind of spot.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think that in itself was probably the biggest difference, as far as the accommodations that between New England and New York, we were in basically a dorm in Connecticut. So
everyone that's played the game at like a higher level has an interesting, host family or housing experience. You never know what you're going to get. You hear guys that get like their family gives them like a car, like a Porsche to use and like a whole basement and like fill out this grocery list. And I had a host family one time that didn't have AC or internet.
Oh yeah.
Like, what are you?
Yep.
What are you going to do?
Every experience is different. That's for sure.
Make the best out of it.
But great families, great teammates. So it was a good time.
You ready to move on to the Ville?
We can do the Ville.
Let's do it, buddy.
Let's do the Ville.
Why don't we start off a little recruiting story? Good?
Yep.
Cool.
He recruited him. He was a great athlete out of junior college. And back then, when I started out the program at Louisville, I was trying to find guys that were very good athletically, had all the tools. Maybe they were missing something. But he was a guy that our coaches were high on, and we took a chance on him, and guy that had all the tools to really be a great college baseball player, move on to pro ball. All right, bro.
Nice little short clip there. You got anything on me? I've got a bunch of clips.
Yeah, no, I it's not funny, but I'm glad to hear that because what's people don't realize, I played every position at Louisville.
I did not know that.
Except pitcher, shortstop, and catcher.
You ever played short?
Nope.
Really?
Not one game. Yep. So I started my first game at second base.
Okay.
And then moved over to third.
Primarily, were you third?
Third, yep. And then till the injury train started. Because I think redshirt year, I could only do first base because of shoulder popping out. But then I ended up playing my last game in right field. And yeah.
So let's pause on the clips there because you just said some interesting stuff there. What was that first year like for you at the Ville? Were you still experiencing throwing yip stuff?
So, and again, it would come and go, but I was full head,
show up,
full head, feeling good, confident, just ready to get going.
Yeah.
And knowing the guys that were there on the roster, it's like, you know what, I've got a great opportunity. And I don't know what it was like with you and doing fall workouts and whatnot, but I remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'd still be stretching underneath the stars. But there was a morning where we were taking ground balls, doing a fungo period, and I don't know if it was just the cutout of the AstroTurf and the dirt between the AstroTurf, but just Coach Zarilla, God love him. Smoked the ground ball, just on the fungo period. And I can't remember if we're using some sort of synthetic leather baseball as a real baseball or whatever it was, but there was still dew on the ground. It skipped and it just exploded my index finger. Same hand.
Oh, man.
So I got pinky, and then you got this guy.
Dude.
And then I think I finished the fungo period, or we had already gotten into double plays, and so we shifted towards third base going to second base. And I was like, man, dude, this thing feels hot, and I hadn't looked at it yet.
Really?
Yeah, and it's hot. It was whatever numb thing. I just couldn't feel it. Didn't feel right. I looked down. I mean, this thing looked like the thing had like a balloon.
Yeah.
And so I remember walking up to Coach Prado and Coach Mundorf for the time. I was like, hey, guys, I think I need to go get this looked at. And he's like, yeah, you need to go. And so I think I just beelined it to our trainer and then drove myself to the hospital and thinking it's like, yeah, we'll just put a splint on it. But looking at the x-ray, it looked like almost like a fish hook. It was inside and just the tip of it exploded. So, after that, still got 2 screws in it, pins and casts. And
so when I ended up having surgery?
They were like, yep, surgery now, go. And I didn't even think it was that bad until it was.
This lingered, or what was it? What was the after effect?
So the after effect was I had, the surgery, the incision went through basically the end of like the pad, so all your, if you can imagine,
feeling, textile.
If you can imagine not being able to feel the baseball, feel the seams, and then that's when, again, another perfect storm, I feel like, came on. It's like, I don't know where it's going. And then you start to, everything just starts to kind of snowball.
Like you said, you start messing with mechanics.
Uh-huh.
And then your release point and the place, you're trying to find something that's comfortable, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up having 3 surgeries on this right hand myself, so I get this so deeply, man. I just, like, from my hitting to my throwing, everything felt different.
Yep.
Like, even how I released it, like, it was...
But,
were you able to come back then, like, by the spring? I mean, you did get to play.
Yeah, so... And again, I think that was, I don't know, probably 6 months or so before I even got, comfortable again.
Really?
And again, these years are starting to, so that it was that, and then I tore my quad. I think it's same year. And then against Cincinnati, I remember this. Dude was throwing. I got hit with a fastball right on my elbow. Popped a bursa sac.
Oh, man.
And I knew nothing about what a bursa sac was. It's like, yeah, bursa sac. But you remember the movie Professor Clump or whatever?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
But my whole arm was swollen. My fingers were swollen. It was like a gel. And then because we were in Cincinnati, we got back, trainers were like, yeah, you probably should have gotten that drained. So then it was that much longer. I was on the shelf, tore my quad, like I said. But
a lot of things not going right.
No.
Pretty frustrated? Where's your head at?
I think it's safe to say I was pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
I probably went into that victim mentality a little bit, like, feeling sorry for myself, which, looking back, it'd probably be hard not to for anybody to fall into that.
2 years ago, you feel like you're on this path, like I'm drafted, this is going the way I want it to go.
Yeah.
Life is crazy sometimes, right? Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, you got to check yourself, and you allow yourself to maybe feel sorry for yourself for a little bit, but then I remember vividly, being in the training room, with Brad Farrell, and we were doing some armband stuff or whatever, and, just trying to keep the other throwing side strong. And, he talked me through some stuff, and it was just fine. It's like, look, just get better. Just be better. Get prepared for the next obstacle, the hurdle, that sort of thing. That was that mentality. And I had to go through that often.
Yeah. Were you doing anything to support your mental health at this time at all? Or?
Well,
anything new that you haven't spoken on?
No, not really. It would have been very easy for me to kind of, separate myself from team type stuff but then that was one thing that I was conscious of. I definitely was around everything I possibly could. I remember, asking the coaches, hey, what can I do? How can I help? Blah, blah, blah. Right. That sort of thing.
How can I still contribute?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way.
Absolutely.
Way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then
depression or anything like that with all this, or like? I don't know if that's
So no. I think when it was all, again, I use the word manifest. It turns into this yips, the whole thing. That's where I went. I got into that depression type feel. It's hard to control.
Yeah.
It is hard to control. But you lean on your support system. I learned to be very vulnerable. I say that because a lot of tears, a lot of introspection and soul searching.
That's so deep, brother.
Yep. Yeah. Because in all of this, it's we generalization. Sometimes we start to identify too much with one thing. It's like, all right, let's look, man. You're identifying with being a baseball player, and that's what you do. It's not who you are. And so that the bigger picture is like you start these expectations, the spotlight, and you got to be this or that. Like I started to recognize, it's like, this is part of my path. This is part of my path, and just navigate it the best you can.
You were supposed to go through all these trials and tribulations.
It's a deep, deep thought, and yes, I do, but I didn't realize that until, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Right. In the moment, you're just like, man, how much more can go wrong?
Yeah.
What's going on? That's at least how I felt. I'm kind of getting that gist from you.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yep. But you talk about faith, you talk about, higher power and things of happening for a reason. 100%, I believe that was my path. Yeah. So.
Love that. Did you feel like this dream of playing pro ball was slipping away, or was it just kind of a detour at this point?
I already felt it had. I think anybody you talk to, they'll tell you it's just such a small window of opportunity.
Oh man, it is. Right.
And we hit on it a bunch. Timing, who you're surrounding yourself with, who's seeing you. But I knew the window was closing very fast, and or had already closed.
Yeah.
But my motivation was, how do we open that window again?
Ooh, okay. So you had some fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I guess that following year, what year? Junior year?
That would have been your red shirt junior year.
Okay, so
you red shirt next year, correct?
Yeah. So red shirt again. I came back feeling good. Yeah. But so this is junior year, third year in college. So I was all pumped, ready to go. During practice, during fungal period, and I dove for a ground ball, separated my shoulder. And that one was probably the hardest. And that's probably the one I took the hardest. It was the hardest to recover from, because I felt that good. I was in a great headspace. Yeah. I think Lelo would tell you that I was there. Yeah. I was there. And that was, getting over the previous year of the injury ridden, coming in, ready to go. Shoulder happened, and you're just like,
man.
And I know Coach Zarilla, Coach Mundorf and Coach Prado, they knew it too. Yeah. And I think there was probably like,
but again.
Yeah. But
can't again, this guy on the field.
No, right. It's crazy stuff, but all good things. So I had to, after that surgery, I played 13 games.
Labrum.
Yeah. It was bicep tendon, labrum tear, both. And so then I was in a sling. I did rehab before I had the surgery. And so I ended up playing that up to that 13 games. And that's why I played first base. Yeah. Love first base. Yeah. So fun. And yeah, we had to make a call because otherwise I would have lost the year and I would have been done.
And like, your whole career would have been kind of a fugazi there.
Right.
So redshirt it and try to get a strong senior year.
Yep, exactly. And I'm glad I did, for sure, because again, I got to do so many things that senior year too.
Remember that story that I told in the intros about, I remember seeing you at the hitting center?
Mm-hmm.
Does that ring a bell at all, or does that make sense to you?
I do.
About the experience that we were all there together, but just that it was a different Greg Taylor.
Yeah, and I think you probably.
I didn't mean to be cruel by saying.
No. And I probably presented. I probably showed a little bit different than what I had in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was
by the game quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You talk about the head out or head up, chest out type deal, because it humbles you. I mean, there's so many parents and people out there, they forget how freaking hard baseball is.
Hard. It's so
hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I try to, emphasize with guys I talk to, give yourself some credit. Give yourself credit. Just to be playing at a high, some would argue an elite level.
100%.
It's not very common. It's common to us because we surround each other with each other.
Sure.
But because it's commonplace for us, but those that don't have those experiences, man, it's.
And think about how many people grew up loving baseball that would have loved to have had your career. Would have killed to play junior college baseball or D1 baseball or got to go and play in these leagues. I'm saying with myself, like I look back on my career and I'm like, parts of me are proud, but there's also a little part of me that's like, I only made it to this level, and I'm like, I feel like I had more. But a lot of people would have killed. That's perspective.
Yeah. And I love hearing you say that because it's true. It's being able to keep that in perspective is huge, and a lot of people either don't or don't know how.
Yeah.
But the senior year, I came back. I wanted to play.
How'd that shoulder feel?
Actually, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good, real good. But that was probably my most enjoyable year.
Really?
And
on that.
Well, and I'll tell you why. And again, the reality somewhat sets in.
This is the end. It's going to be the last year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't.
No, there was. Well, I looked at it kind of like that, but then, talk about more injuries. I knew I was going to be on the shelf at the end of the year because leading up to that year, working out and high intensity workouts and stuff like that, strength and conditioning stuff. I ended up with a sports hernia.
Oh man!
And I worked through it. Right, uncomfortable, yes, but it was only certain things. Like if it was a fast twitch move where I knew it was there, but I knew I was going to have to go on the shelf for a while. I could have, gone to tryouts and played independent ball or whatever the case was.
Question to that, was that ever a thought?
Yeah. But I think I was at peace with, moving on from that. Cause I'd given a lot. I think my, injuries had probably taken a toll. I was probably mentally fatigued more than anything. But could I have done it? Absolutely. And I to this day, I still, if I had some different tools, and some skills, that I'd be able to combat some of those things mentally, and, it would have been a pretty fun ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think your body got wrecked, but certainly at the very least, could have played indie ball. And I still think if you had a clear path, I would have loved to see what Greg Taylor could have done and affiliated if you got there.
Yeah, me too.
Was it hard for you when it was over? I mean, were you a guy that like your identity was wrapped up in being a baseball player?
Yeah, like I said, I did. I identified, I think, too much with Greg Taylor is the baseball player or, sports. But I put so much stock in thinking or believing that I was going to get an opportunity. And, I often joke and talking with kids and my own kids, which is probably bad, but when they're doing schoolwork and this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, the only thing I had to read was a scoreboard. It's like kind of one of those things. I forget what movie that's on, but I believed it. I believe that I was, I had the tools. I was blessed with the tools, and I was going to, take advantage of everything that I could. Yeah. Those God-given talents, and it's sometimes those little things get in your way, which sometimes are out of control, sometimes they're not. Yeah. But yeah, I identified too much with it. And I think, as I mentioned, I was at peace with, moving on from it. So.
Well, we're about at the end of our Louisville stuff here. Let's get through our Lelo clips here, and then we'll pause, and then we'll get into it. We'll finish with our Q&A.
Cool.
So, here we go. About take a chance.
One of those guys that, as a college coach, when I was starting to build the program, you take a chance on a guy like that because two things: he's going to be a good college player, or he's going to be a great college player and take it to another level. And we're very fortunate. When I got to Louisville, we took a lot of chances on guys like Greg Taylor. And there was just I had to at that time. Louisville was terrible when I took it over, and little by little, I started recruiting up there and where he was playing junior college baseball because I thought we could get some of those kids to say, "Come south." It really wasn't very far, but it was south, and we hit that area hard. We were very successful with a lot of those kids, and he was one of them that helped us start turning the program around and get it going.
I love that.
Was it hard for you watching him deal with some of the injuries and the yips and things like that?
It was because of his talent level.
Yeah.
He was so talented that I think if I recall back now, I almost told him, you could even be a catcher and make it to the big leagues quicker. That's how athletic he was.
Yeah.
And all the tools. But, he kept getting little nicks and things here and there. And that's prevented him from just becoming just a superstar.
Oh, anything?
Oh, dude.
Cool clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's goosebump worthy. And again, I haven't talked to Lelo in 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Just hearing him that, man, it's, it feels good. And man, thank you for sharing that. And, but yeah, and just to know that there was some of that empathy, coming from him, because you didn't know. And I think a lot of those guys, Lelo's a old school,
right?
Freaking hard nosed.
You might not expect him to have that soft center.
Yeah. Right? And I think that was by design.
It's more old school coaching.
Yeah.
How it was.
Yeah. Right. And his success at Tampa, he brought that to Louisville, created a culture, and but part of taking a chance, right? I think that was for both of us, and because you talk about our paths. I wanted to go to JUCO in St. Louis for a different path, and I knew, and again, some of those guys in the summer league that were there, I said, yeah, man, shoot, man, these guys are pretty good. Yeah. And I knew the character of the guys that were there, and I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to grow that, for not only Louisville, not only of those guys I knew, but for myself. We there's an opportunity to build something.
Now they're like a top 10 program.
Yeah. And so what's interesting about that too, my last year was the first year of Jim Patterson Stadium, so we opened that. we being our senior class. But the guys that I got close to that were underclassmen at the time at Louisville, and that I think it was a year or two after, they ended up in the College World Series.
Yeah, right.
You know? But to you kind of hang your hat a little bit on that, all right, well, you helped
build the foundation,
guide or show some of these guys the ropes,
100%.
But I'll tell you what, those guys being the ones that came after us, that program and the belief that they had in themselves was fun to watch.
Yeah.
See them develop. It's cool stuff.
I'm really enjoying this moment right here because you and I personally have kind of gone back and forth. We were kind of, like you said, you haven't talked to Lelo in 20 years.
Yeah.
We're not totally sure how he kind of saw you in your time there. I mean, obviously, I think it's easy to think that you look back on your time there and like, we brought you in, you weren't able to really perform up to what both you and him probably thought you were able to, right? So
I would agree.
Coach, thank you. I similarly feel the same about my college coach at Murray State. He brought me in. He thought I was going to be really special. My body fell apart. How does he look back on it? Is he still normally? Does he still, think of you as a person, or is it just this failed baseball player that didn't quite work out?
Yeah.
Those are my own inner workings.
Oh yeah, no, you're right on. It's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. What did we just play? You already said take a chance. We just played that.
Mm-hmm.
Take a chance.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go. The kind of young man.
A great teammate. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm from Tampa, Florida, and I would bring people up there. I mean, he even dated a girl that was one of my friend's daughter that went from Tampa up there to be on the swim team. And, he's the kind of young man that you love around. Always had a great attitude, and always was. It always seemed like he was, in good spirits, even though he was battling some things. Yeah. But I always loved his attitude, and he was one of the guys I used to always joke with around the dugout.
Absolutely. You got anything?
No, that's good. Good stuff.
Tools were always there. Can I play this clip?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Give it a whirl and see if we've heard it before.
Yeah.
I get a little lost sometimes.
So he had some injuries with us, but the tools were always there for me. I mean, I used to tell him, hey, buddy, your tools are not the problem. It's you beat yourself up with it. And I think that's one thing that now it's really big in our business. The mental health part of it, that when we first started coaching, it was get tougher.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest with you, that was something that probably would have benefited him a lot. And we were very fortunate to get him because he was drafted in the 42nd round. But just a guy that we kept plugging in there because we knew he had every tool to be a good college baseball player.
Hear how high he was on you, actually.
It's I'm smiling and it just, man, it feels good to hear that, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you this. I usually do not share clips with these guys. Greg reached out to me like, can I usually share these clips or do you want to hear them? And I was like, I usually don't, but I'll send them to you if you want. Are you glad that you did not?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more fun to hear
them
kind of live.
Yeah, for sure.
Last one, just a great young man.
I could joke around with him, and since he was at that time going out with one of my buddy's daughters, I would really get on him about things. But just a great young man that I knew he was going to be successful no matter what he did. If it wasn't in baseball, he was one of those guys you knew no matter what he did, he was going to be successful because he was smart and he got after it. So I was always proud of him. That's what makes me proud as an ex-coach, see those guys be successful. And I was hard on him. I ain't gonna lie to you, I was hard on him.
I got that last one.
That sums up,
right?
That sums it up right there.
Those few sentences tell me so much. That's how he said it. I think I know.
Oh man, gosh!
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah, no, and he.
You guys.
Oh,
yep.
I'm telling you, he was old school to the bone.
There's some grinding, conditioning, and things like that.
Man. Dude, I don't even know where to start.
Right?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Anything that's PG enough that you can share?
Probably not. Okay. But
kind of says a lot right there.
No, Lelo, he's Coach Prado, man, love him.
Had a great time chatting with him. We really appreciate that. It's a baseball lifer right there.
For sure.
We're at a place now. We're closing in on about an hour and 45, 2 hours. So let's take another little break. This is going to be part 2. And I was totally right in predicting this was going to be a long one. So we're going to get our Q&A. We've got 60 questions here. There's some really cool stuff in here. So pause it right now. We'll be back for part